Carl Jung once admitted that there were psychological cases that made him shudder, not because of loud madness, but because of a terrifying silence. People who were too sensitive, too compassionate, suddenly breaking down as if an invisible force had drained the very soul out of them. In his private journals, Jung wrote that he saw in these cases a form of spiritual parasite, not an earthly insect, but an unseen force that lives off our emotional light. He believed that empaths, those who feel deeply, love fiercely, listen endlessly, and hold the pain of others, are in fact the easiest targets for such parasites. Jung called this a disturbing phenomenon, invisible predators that survive by feeding on the light within your soul. Have you ever felt like that? A conversation that leaves you exhausted. An encounter that leaves only emptiness, as if you gave away a piece of your soul without realizing it. If that sounds familiar, then this video is for you. Because these energy-feeding patterns are not fantasy. They're real, embedded in the collective unconscious, and far more common than we dare to think. In today's journey, I'll take you through Jung's original writings alongside modern psychological research, so you can begin to see the energy drains hidden in your relationships. More importantly, I'll show you how to step out of the prey role, how to hold on to your own light, confront and integrate your inner shadow, and become a sovereign self. If you've ever felt your kindness weaponized, if you've loved so deeply that it left you depleted, stay with me, because the truth is about to reveal itself, a truth that has always been right in front of you, but has never been named. We step now from intuition into psychological reality. Jung saw that human relationships aren't just about compatibility or personality. He believed that when two personalities meet, there is a chemical reaction, one that transforms both. Yet in the case of an empath and a parasitic counterpart, only one is transformed. The empath loses energy. The parasite remains unchanged. This isn't metaphor. In Jung's lens, it's archetypal, the wounded healer who never healed, the shadow devourer who eats what others must learn to own. Here's how the pattern typically unfolds. Stage 1. Light recognition. The predator unconsciously senses your emotional availability. Jung observed that narcissistic personalities often have a near instantaneous radar for empaths. They see someone who gives more than they take. Stage 2. Wound reveal. They don't begin with demands. They begin with pain. They mirror your depth. Trauma dumping, emotional disclosure, vulnerability. They draw you into a gravitational field of crisis. Stage 3. Empathy. Activation and extraction. Once your compassion is hooked, they systematically extract your emotional labor. They create emergencies, incessant emotional dumping, problems that require your support without reciprocation. Stage 4. Depletion. Normalization. They convince you that exhaustion is intimacy, that depletion is the price of deep connection. They project that your sensitivity is the problem, gaslighting your intuition. And when you finally begin to resist, they reverse the narrative. You're selfish, cold, unloving. You doubt your own judgments. This is the shadow projection reversal. The parasite projects emptiness outward and convinces you it is your fault. You begin to internalize the depletion as proof of your own hypersensitivity. This is no coincidence. Jung's core method was shadow work, confronting disowned parts of self. But in these dynamics, the empath's shadow is used against them. The unconscious addiction to being needed becomes a prison. Some modern studies on emotional abuse and manipulation validate these patterns. Psychological researchers describe how trauma bonds form in cycles of crisis and relief, reinforcing the dynamic. While Jung never used the phrase energy parasite, his writings on projection, unconscious complexes, and individuation lay the groundwork for seeing this as a spiritual psychological archetype. So now, dear viewer, you realize you are not too sensitive, not weak, not broken. You are precisely the person predators unconsciously search for, because your gift is extraordinary. Let's move deeper. We've laid the structure. Now let's look at how these patterns show up in your life, and how Jung's path toward individuation gives you a way out. In romance, someone seems wounded, calls you their safe harbor. You feel honored, special. But over time, they call you to crisis, emotionally dump constantly, and extinguish your own voice. In family, a parent or sibling calls with perpetual crises, guilt trips, threats of abandonment. When you set boundaries, they claim betrayal. At work, a colleague monopolizes emotional space, dramatizes stress, leans on you to stabilize them. You feel obligated because you care, but you end depleted. Notice the pattern. The mask slips when you resist. When you insist on reciprocity or space, you are accused of being cold or unsupportive. You can't heal someone by feeding them your emotional energy. Healing demands integration, not sacrifice. The more you save others, the more you neglect the parts of yourself that need saving. The empath's hidden shadow is the fear of abandonment and the compulsion to be needed. That shadow becomes the lever predators use. Here's where I add fresh insight. In midlife, 45 to 55, many empaths face an internal shift, a reckoning of identity. Your children grow, your roles shift. You begin asking, who am I when I'm not caretaking? Predators sense that fissure, that vulnerability. The timing becomes even more critical. So Jung has given practical steps that we can take right away. Body signal tracking. Before, during, after interactions. Make a note. How do you feel physically, emotionally? Over time, you build clarity about who energizes you and who drains you. Active imagination. Jung's method of dialoguing with unconscious parts. Ask the image or voice representing your need to be needed. Why do I feel compelled to rescue? Let the unconscious answer silently. You'll begin to see how that shadow drives your choices. Boundary experimentation. Start small. Say no to one request that doesn't feel reciprocal. Notice the reaction and how your body responds. Shadow integration. Ask yourself, what part of me believed I only mattered by giving? What childhood wound made me take responsibility for others' emotions? Make these parts conscious. That is exactly what Jung called individuation. To become whole by integrating both light and dark. Reciprocity testing. In new relationships, ask for emotional support in return and see how they respond. True, sensitive connection wants mutual nourishment. As you deepen this work, you'll shift from the unconscious empath, absorbing everything, blaming yourself, to the conscious empath, feeling, discerning, holding space, and ultimately toward the sovereign empath, someone who offers compassion without surrendering their boundaries. Be warned, as you begin to protect your energy, the parasite will escalate. Expect sabotage, guilt, identity attack. But don't retreat. Their escalation is a sign that your boundaries are working. What matters now is not perfect love, but fierce discernment. Not endless giving, but conscious reciprocity. Not denying your boundary for connection, but choosing connection with integrity. You've now seen the hidden architecture of emotional vampirism. You've walked through Jung's original warning, felt the emotional urgency of the pattern, and learned concrete tools to begin reclaiming your light. Here's your life lesson. Your light is not fuel for someone else's darkness. It is a sacred presence meant to illuminate your own path to wholeness. The empathetic gift you carry doesn't make you pray. It makes you a steward of truth. But to wield it wisely, you must learn to guard it. The transformation from unconscious empath to sovereign empath is not optional. It's inevitable. You cannot give what you don't own. You cannot heal through depletion. You can only heal through integration boundaries, growth. So here is your call to action. 1. Choose one boundary you will set this week, in conversation, in time, in energy. 2. Journal your emotional state before, during, and after intimate interactions. Begin tuning in. 3. Shadow witness your old compulsion to rescue and ask, who am I when I'm not needed? If today marks the moment you stop being prey, then every relationship that demanded your depletion becomes a catalyst for sovereignty. You will no longer dim your light to make others comfortable. You will only live fully in your own glow. If this message landed in your heart, do one thing. Share below one boundary you're ready to claim. Your courage might be the mirror someone else needs to take their first step. If you found value here, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning. I'll be exploring more Jungian keys to shadow, power, and emotional mastery. Let's reclaim our light together. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next dimension.